Hi guys, here we go again and back at Granville Island for a boat tour to Vancouver Harbour. Parking over here is chaotic. It took us about half an hour to drive around looking for parking spots, and finally we found a spot down in the basement, and we're almost late for the tour. So and now we're heading to the Prince of Wales boat tour for the day. It takes about 90 minutes, but we'll see how it goes. So we were here like 2 days ago or so.
Yeah.
Hey guys, you guys do the 1 p.m. tour as well? Amazing. I'll be your captain. We're just waiting on 2 more people who are in the bathroom. As soon as they're back, we'll get everyone together, okay? Thank you for being on time. I appreciate it.
Parking is really kind of chaotic over here, eh?
It's Granville Island.
Yeah, I was
Times
just
Square in New York.
driving around like for half an hour looking for a spot.
That's why we tell you getting half an hour early.
Oh, my planet, half an hour on top of half an hour early.
Yeah, I know. It's Granville Island though. It's always such chaos.
Yeah.
I'm glad you made it. Amazing. Hello guys. You guys doing the 1 p.m. tour today? Yeah. Fantastic. Me too. You guys doing 1 p.m. as well? Sounds good. Keep following me. 1 p.m. 1 p.m. Sounds good. We're going to take about 20 big steps this way. It's not shouting in front of our door. Follow me, guys. Amazing. Just I'm not shouting in front of the door, guys. First and foremost, thank you for being all on time. I realize how annoying, stressful, complicated, confusing, aggravating Granville Island can be. So I appreciate it. We're all here on time. We're leaving in 5 minutes. We are back here at 2:30. So we're out on the water for 90 minutes. Now with today, guys, my name's Raphael. I'll be your captain when we're out there today, okay? As you guys might realize already by the accent, I'm not from Canada. I'm from Melbourne, Australia, but I've been in Canada for 6 years. I'll do my very, very best to remember all your names, where you are from. If I forget your name and where you're from, I'm sorry. It's a lot of faces and a lot of names to remember every single day. But before we head down there, guys, there are 3 rules on my boat, okay? Number 1, you cannot smoke on my boat. That includes e-cigarettes, so no smoking or vaping until 2:30 when we get back. Number 2, I would strongly discourage anyone from drinking any alcohol on the boat. There is no bathroom on a Zodiac, okay? The last place you want to be is on a boat with a stomach full of beer and wine and no bathroom close by. So coffees, waters, that's okay. Alcohol, wouldn't recommend it, guys. And third and finally, in respect to masks, if you want to wear a mask, absolutely. It's an open air boat, so legally you don't have to, but I would encourage it, okay? Sounds good. Whatever you feel happiest, most comfortable and safest with. And once again, guys, my name's Raphael. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. I'll be your captain. I'll try and remember all of your names. Then we'll leave and we'll all become best friends. It was Fanny, wasn't it?
Yes.
Where are you from, Fanny?
Toronto.
Amazing. Welcome to British Columbia. Then it was... Didn't catch your name, sorry. Perfect. And...
Jackie.
And...
Fall.
Amazing. Where are you guys from?
Ontario.
Amazing, guys. Welcome to British Columbia. Sir. Amazing. And...
Monica.
Where are you guys from?
Edmonton.
Amazing, guys. Welcome to British Columbia. Up the back there, sir. What was your name?
Pierre.
Perfect.
And my name is Pierre also as well, and also I am from Winnipeg.
Amazing, fantastic. And then up the back, madam.
Right there.
Awesome, and your son.
Johnny.
Amazing, guys. Welcome to Vancouver and welcome to BC. Once again, Raphael, guys. Now with today, we are not wearing the big red suits. The big red suits are for cold, sad, wet Vancouver days. You'll be absolutely stiflingly hot in those red suits. Just life jackets. Your life jackets are down on the boat waiting for you, okay? I'll hand them out to you when we get down there. And with your bags, guys, if you want to bring your bags onto the boat, bring them onto the boat. If you don't want to bring it onto the boat, there is a locker down at the docks, okay? So you want to lock it behind? Lock it behind. You want to bring it with you? Bring it with you. Simple as that. I have the only key in my pocket. Now, before we head down there, guys, jackets, sweaters, sunglasses, hats, cameras, things like that, bring that onto the boat. Any bags, you can leave that behind if you need to. But before we head down there, any questions at all? Everyone's ready?
Yeah.
Everyone's excited?
Yeah.
Me too. I'm excited, guys. Follow me. This is good fun.
I'm excited for the speedboat thing.
Alrighty.
I see
Now,
all
before we
the
fight over the seats, let me make this abundantly clear. A, every seat's exactly the same, so don't be upset where you sit. B, I'm going to tell you guys where to sit anyway. COVID-19 in mind, I keep everyone as far away from each other as possible, so everyone gets their own row basically. That being said, guys, when we are out on the water, we are out on the water for 90 minutes. We are stopping 8 times. Every time we stop and my voice is speaking, you are all more than welcome to stand up to grab a better photo, better view, stretch your legs. However, whenever we're moving and my voice isn't speaking, I would ask everyone to please stay seated. A, if I have to stop the boat suddenly, it's much nicer sitting down than standing up. B, whoever's sitting behind you, if you have someone sitting behind you, probably doesn't want to spend 90 minutes looking into the back of your bottom. So anytime we're moving, stay seated. Anytime we're not moving, feel free to stand up. Now before we get onto the boat, guys, today is going to be like school, but a lot more fun. And by that, I mean we will learn a lot. But if anybody has a question, if you guys can't understand my Australian accent, if you guys want a photo, if you guys want to know what something is, just like school, you're just going to put a hand up in the air and I'll do my very best to answer your questions. Sounds good? Now I'll take photos of you guys all day with my camera. I'll send them to you free of charge in an email later on. You're more than welcome to take as many photos of me, Vancouver, each other as you want on your phones and cameras, but I will not be climbing through the boat to touch your phones and cameras today. A, I don't want to do that because of COVID-19. B, I don't want to drop anyone's phones or cameras out of the side of the boat. Okay, so I'll take photos of my phone. I'll send them to you free of charge in an email at about 8 o'clock tonight. But feel free to take as many photos, videos, selfies, family photos as you guys want. Now before we jump on board, the most dangerous part of the day is going to be getting in and getting out. And the only reason why is because this moves and so does the boat. So as you guys step in and 2:30 step out, be a little bit careful, but I find the easiest and simplest way to get in and out of the boat is by putting one foot onto the tube, second foot goes onto the seat. If you'd like a hand, I can give you a hand. Otherwise, I'm sure your fellow passengers and the yellow bars designed for it don't mind. Now, before we jump on board, guys, once again, every single seat is exactly the same. So it doesn't matter where you sit. I'll be telling you guys where to sit anyway. So for my family of 3, it was Mong and...
Tall. So the back seat, maybe.
1 out of 3 ain't bad. You guys are in the very back seat today, guys. You guys can stand whenever you want because you have no one behind you, okay? You guys are in the very back row, so come towards me. I'll be getting you guys in there first. You're in the very last row. Don't be worried, guys. As I said, you're welcome to stand up whenever you guys like. There's plenty of room for everybody. If you'd like a hand, let me know. Amazing.
Okay.
Perfect. You're in there next, buddy.
Thanks. Ready?
I'll get you guys right here in front of our lovely family in the back. And then for my family, I'll get you guys in the front row. Now let me see if I can get all of you guys into the one row. If I can't, don't cram in. Don't you guys being uncomfortable. I'll get you guys in the front row. Kids, you guys get in the very front row because you guys are the smallest.
Lucky.
You want a hand? Let me know. But put one big foot on the tube, second foot onto the seat, and then maneuver yourself around. If you need any help, Dad's here and so am I.
No, we're allowed to sit and stand up or
Exactly.
we want.
You're next, buddy.
We got a GPS.
Put on there. Put on the seat there.
You got it. What's that shin on that bar? There you go. Mom or Dad, you guys want to jump in with the kids?
Yeah.
Alright, Mom's going in then. Sounds good. I'll tell you what, Dad, rather than squeezing in, I'll get you over here on this side behind your kids, if that's all right. Get a shoulder massage. And then Fanny, we'll get you over here on this right side. Amazing. Alrighty, kids in the front row. Do you like blue or yellow?
Oh, I guess.
Catch. Buddy, you get blue. Because that'd be fun. Awesome. And madam, do you have a pair of sunglasses with you today? You'll be in the front row, so you're going to be the people behind his windshield, so you'll need those. And then, you got a pair of sunglasses, guys? I'll tell you what, we'll go chivalry, ladies. There you go. Amazing. Otherwise, as promised, I'll take photos of you guys all day. I'll send them to you free of charge later on in an email. Now we're leaving right now, which is exactly 1:02. We're back here at 2:32. Very first photo I'll take is a big happy family photo of everybody. That's on the count of 3. That's on a 1, and a 2, and a 3. Amazing. Everybody ready?
Ready.
Everyone's excited.
Yeah.
Me too, guys. Thank you for being on time. 3:02 or 1:02. That's about as close as we're gonna get to 1 o'clock. Trust me. Let's go, guys. 90 minutes starts right now.
Moving out.
Amazing, guys. Now with today, we are not wearing the red suits. The red suits are to keep you warm. It is 22.5 degrees on my dashboard.
Nice.
If you guys are wearing the red suits, it'll be about 37 degrees inside that suit. So we're not wearing the big red suits. It might be a little bit brisk as we drive around, but trust me, you'll be much happier being warm when we're stopping than sitting there sweating and being uncomfortable. So if you're cold when we drive around, sorry guys, it's September. I can't do anything about that, but I guarantee you'll be much more happy being around with a nice light breeze than being out there and being absolutely boiling in your red suit. Now that being said, every single person on board, welcome on board, and every single person, once again, welcome to BC. Now my name is Raphael, I'll be your captain. Now before we head out, I realize my accent might be a little bit weird and probably the last thing you expected for a boat captain and a boat tour in Canada to be like, but I'll explain, guys. I was actually born and raised in London, England. I moved to Australia when I was 5 years old. That's why my accent's kind of like an Australian, British, Canadian thing going on. But I moved from London, England to Melbourne, Australia. Melbourne is right down the very bottom of Australia on the east coast when I was 5. Dad's English, mum's Italian. I don't speak Italian, but I have an Italian name, Raphael Menotti. Doesn't get more Italian than that. But I moved from London, England to Melbourne, Australia when I was 5. But when I was 20, I left Melbourne. I moved about 3,500 kilometers north to the very top of Australia on the east coast to a town called Cairns. Cairns is at the very, very top of the Great Barrier Reef, and I worked in Cairns in the Australian Coast Guard for 3 years as a medical officer, as well as a, well spotted.
Oh,
Seal.
a seal.
We'll find more, guys, don't you worry, but well spotted. Yeah, I worked as a medical officer in the Coast Guard for 3 years, working out on boats, Zodiacs, just like this, helping people out, jumping out of helicopters, diving, doing rescue dives, things like that. After 3 years of being in the Coast Guard, I was really bored. I left the Coast Guard. I moved about 1,000 kilometers back down south to an area of the Whitsundays, which is at the very, very bottom of the Great Barrier Reef, and spent 3 more years at the bottom of the reef doing everything from jet ski tours to booze cruises to party boats. I taught scuba diving for a year, taught wreck diving, deep sea diving, did some research diving on behalf of the Australian government. And then after 6 years of working on the reef, I was 25, turning 26. And like every 25-year-old Australian doesn't know what to do with his life, jumped on a plane, flew to Vancouver and went straight to Whistler, British Columbia, the ski resort town 2 hours north of Vancouver. When I got to Whistler, it was January 2015. Population was 67,500. Out of the 67,500, 41,117 people in Whistler are either Australian, British, or New Zealand citizens. We make up 66% of the town of Whistler. It's a very strange place to call home. That's why everybody calls it Whiststralia. It's basically like Whistler, but Australia. But that was 6 years ago. I was supposed to be in Canada for 6 months. I stayed for 6 years, and the reason why I did was because in Vancouver, I am only living in Vancouver from April till October, and from April till October, I do jet ski tours, I do boat tours, I do paddleboard and kayak lessons, and I also do whale watching charters on the bigger boat. And then once October rolls around, next month, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna drive 2 hours north to Whistler, and I spend my winters in Whistler doing snowmobile tours in the backcountry of the Whistler and Callahan Valley, and I'm also on the hill as ski patrol, ripping around on my skis as well as on my snowmobile. So you can understand why I did everything in my diplomatic, legal power to stay in Canada. I'm having a really fun time, spending half my life on boats, jet skis, paddleboards, and kayaks, half my life on snowmobiles with my skis on my back. But today, it's September. It's not quite winter yet, which means I'm still in Vancouver, and so are you. And with Vancouver, guys, I love this city. There's a reason why I come back every spring, summer, and fall. There's a reason why the 2.6 million Vancouverites put up and deal with those insane rent prices and mortgage prices and bills to pay here. There's a reason why most Canadians, when they come to Vancouver, tell me, their friends and family and themselves that they want to move here. There's a reason why before COVID, we had about 20 million tourists visit our city every single year. But I will tell you this, guys, none of it has anything to do with downtown Vancouver. Now, I love this city, I love Vancouver, but this is just my opinion. So don't be upset with me about it. You can have your own about Vancouver. But in my opinion, I think downtown Vancouver on the right-hand side is probably one of the most boring cities in the world, and definitely one of the most boring looking cities in the world in terms of architecture. This is not Chicago, this isn't New York or Paris or Rome or Venice or Florence. The reason why Vancouver is such an incredible city has nothing to do with the city and everything to do with what is around the city. We are the luckiest city in the world, in my opinion, to have so many incredible things surrounding our city and endless amounts of things to do around our city. People always ask me, what is the best thing in Vancouver to do? I mean this in the nicest way. The best thing in Vancouver to do is to get out of Vancouver and enjoy what British Columbia does best. Outdoor activities, mountains, the ocean. We're one of the luckiest cities in the world. That's why our license plates say beautiful British Columbia. Not beautiful downtown Kamloops, not beautiful downtown Prince George, not beautiful downtown Vancouver, and definitely not downtown anywhere else. Vancouver is great, but the best thing about this city is having things around our city. Now, we are going to talk a lot about Vancouver as we cruise around the city today, but before we talk about that, guys, let's talk about what's around Vancouver. That's more important anyway, but I will give you guys my top 5 things in Vancouver to do. We'll talk about its history, things I love about it, interesting things about it. But before we talk about Vancouver at our 8 stops, let's talk about what's around Vancouver to try and get you guys inspired, to get you guys out of the city. Now, if you guys travel north in front of us, behind English Bay, the big piece of water, behind the container ships, and behind West Vancouver, about 15 kilometers in front of us, that area is called Howl Sound. Howl Sound is a glacial fjord. Inside that glacial fjord, if you're on a boat, you will find anything from jellyfish to salmon, to seals, to sea lions, to humpback whales, to grey whales, porpoises, dolphins, orcas, and killer whales. If you drive out of Vancouver along the side of Howl Sound northbound for 2 hours, you're going to drive into Whistler. Now, even though Whistler is a ski resort town and my hometown in winter, Whistler is busier and better in July than it is in January, because Whistler is considered widely as the world capital of downhill mountain biking. If you guys don't want to go downhill mountain biking, there are plenty of lakes, mountains, hikes, camping, hunting, and everything else in between. If you travel west of Vancouver to the left-hand side, you are not going to get very far by car, so jump onto a ferry or a seaplane, make your way across to beautiful Vancouver Island. Vancouver Island has some of the best surf beaches on its west side, and all those beautiful whales and sea mammals migrating up its east side. If you travel south of Vancouver behind us, hopefully not too long from now, we can drive for 90 minutes until we get over the border into Washington State. Even though Washington State is most famous for Seattle, for me, Washington State is best for areas like the Northern Cascades National Park, Olympic National Park, the Olympic Rainforest, Columbia Gorge, Mount Baker, Mount Rainier, and everything down towards the Oregon coastline. And if you travel east towards the rest of Canada where you guys are, you'll be driving for 4 hours into the Okanagan. The Okanagan is a beautiful area of lakes and wineries, and then another 4 hours after that, so 8 hours in total. You're going to leave BC, you're going to drive into Alberta, and as you guys do, you'll be driving through the Canadian Rockies, which is without a doubt the most beautiful place in the world. We are very lucky in Vancouver to have all this close by. Now, as we leave the slow zone in 20 seconds time, I realize it's a bit cloudy and a bit gray and a bit sad. Here is the good news. Clouds create low pressure. Low pressure creates less wind. Less wind creates less waves. If you guys came on my boat tour, not last Sunday, but the Sunday before, it was 32 degrees and we had 45-kilometer wind gusts in English Bay where we are right now. This is as far as we made it on our 1 p.m. tour. We turned straight back around. There was 6-foot waves. Now, I'm 6'2". That's waves to about here. I was like, nope, not a chance. Turned around and went straight back home. Today, forecast is 0.05, which is this much. It's the biggest wave we're going to see today, unless it comes from the back of someone's boat. It's going to be nice and smooth today. I'll always happily take a colder, gray, cloudy Vancouver day without any wind than a really windy, hot day. Nothing fun about 5-foot waves or 6-foot waves. But as we leave the slow zone, guys, we've got 8 stops coming up. Anytime we stop from now on, you're all more than welcome to stand up. Otherwise, put a hand up in the air if you guys have any questions at all. But as we leave the slow zone, we're going to go out towards Stanley Park, that big park on the front right-hand side. We're going to go around Stanley Park, under the Lionsgate Bridge, into Vancouver Harbour. We'll make 4 stops in the harbour in front of downtown, the North Shore Mountains, Lonsdale Quay, and the Lionsgate Bridge. Then we're going to go back under the Lionsgate Bridge, back around Stanley Park, and back onto Granville Island at 2:32. My only piece of advice as we're out on the boat, guys, is this. For anybody who is wearing a hat, I will do my very best to catch it when it goes flying through the boat at 1,000,000 kilometers an hour. If it's a baseball cap, turn it around. If it doesn't have a chin strap, it's not going to last. If you have a chin strap, that's fine. If it doesn't have a chin strap, I'm going to do my best to catch it. Otherwise, on the count of 3, is everybody ready?
Aye, aye, Captain.
Oh yeah, on the count of 3, guys. 300 horsepower coming right up. 1, 2, 3, let's go. First drive down. How's everyone doing? Good? Me too, guys. That's about as calm as it's ever going to get at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Trust me, guys. Beautiful out here. Nice and calm, nice and warm. And as I said, guys, it might be a little bit breezy as we drive around, but we'll be absolutely roasting in our suits. So I'm very, very happy we didn't bring the red suits today. That being said, guys, very first stop, we're sitting in what's called English Bay. Directly in front of us is Stanley Park. Now, I absolutely love Stanley Park. There is a reason why for 5 years in a row, Stanley Park has been voted, according to TripAdvisor, as the world's second best park in a city on the planet behind Central Park in New York. I would always argue that Stanley Park is way better than Central Park in New York City. Not because I live in Vancouver, because of these 3 reasons. Number 1, on a hot summer's day, there's nothing better than going to the beach. You can't do that in Central Park in New York. You can do that here in Stanley Park, Vancouver. There are 3 beaches in Stanley Park. This one here is called Third Beach. The one around the corner is called Second Beach, and you may have guessed it, but the next one after that's called First Beach. Then you have English Bay Beach, Sunset Beach, Capilano Beach. Nothing better than spending a day, especially when it's really, really hot at the beach. The water itself is nice and warm in the summertime as well. It's about 17 or 18 degrees Celsius, which isn't exactly sort of like tropical warm weather, but we're in Canada, guys. 17 degrees water is really, really nice on a 40-degree day in summer, trust me. With the sunset, guys, if you guys want to watch a wonderful, beautiful sunset over the Pacific Ocean, I get that my entire life from Australia and now living in Vancouver, but if you're from the interior or from the East Coast, you don't get that. If you guys want to watch a sunset over the Pacific Ocean, come on to Vancouver's beaches. Doesn't matter what beach you go to, they all face west. Sunset's over there. It goes in between Vancouver Island and the mainland, which means you get to watch a sunset over the Pacific Ocean at like 8:30 at the moment. We get great sunsets here in Vancouver as well. Best place for that is the beaches. Now, always remember, legally, you're not allowed to drink at Vancouver's beaches. However, you are legally allowed to drink in Stanley Park. Now, I got a drinking in public fine at Third Beach the other week. I emailed the Vancouver Parks Board saying, could you please send me an email with a map of Stanley Park and where the park limits are? Third Beach is legally part of Stanley Park. So I got the ticket overturned. So you can legally drink at the third beach. Otherwise, can't drink at the beaches, but you can drink in the parks here, which is kind of weird. And with the beach, guys, go to the beach. Otherwise, the number 2 reason I love Stanley Park has nothing to do with what's inside of it and everything to do with what goes around the edge of it. I will give you Raphael's top 5 things in Vancouver to do today. My number 1 thing, without a single doubt in my mind, is riding, walking, rollerblading, skateboarding, scootering, doesn't matter, but go around the Stanley Park seawall. Shouldn't take you more than 90 minutes with a bike. Shouldn't take you more than 3 hours by foot. It's flat, it's easy, it's exactly 8.5 kilometers in length. Definitely my number 1 thing is riding a bike, walking, skateboarding, rollerblading, whatever you guys want to do, but go around the Stanley Park seawall. Shouldn't take you more than 90 minutes by bike or 3 hours by foot. You got bars, cafes, restaurants, beaches, lookouts, things to stop at. It's my number 1 thing you must do. Now, the reason why the seawall even exists is because 100 years ago, Stanley Park used to get washed into the ocean through massive sea damage and sea erosion. As I said, yesterday there was waves to about here, and then last Sunday was waves to about there, and then Father's Day I had to cancel my Father's Day tours because there was waves to about there. So we had to cancel tours. It gets really rough in English Bay. We get 5, 6, 7, 8 foot waves, really strong windstorms, snowstorms, rainstorms. All of that used to smash into the side of Stanley Park with nothing to protect it, and it used to wash it into the ocean through sea damage and sea erosion. These cliffs that we are looking at with everyone riding their bikes, and you guys are going to ride your bikes and walk around, are made entirely out of sandstone. Sandstone's very weak, very easily manipulated and washed away by sea damage and sea erosion. So they put the seawall around it in the 1920s to stop that from happening. But you may have noticed they left a part of Stanley Park on the outside, this strange sort of pineapple-shaped rock sea stack at the halfway point. Now this rock is called Siwash Rock. Siwash Rock has an enormous significance to the local Musqueam, Squamish and Swallowtooth First Nations people which land it sits on, but for geologists and volcanologists, Siwash Rock is a complete mystery because we can't work out exactly how or when it got to Canada. Now, if you look at the bottom of Siwash Rock, especially if you pull your sunglasses up for 1 second, at the bottom of Siwash Rock, it's jet black with like a glossy sort of finish. At the bottom of Siwash Rock, there's a layer of sandstone, a layer of limestone, and then underneath that is made out of basalt. Basalt is a very, very strong, very, very thick volcanic glass. Basalt isn't rare, but it is rare in this part of the world. If you've ever driven through the Rockies, about 80% made out of basalt and granite. But basalt is very rare. It's a thick volcanic glass, and the closest place we can find it to Siwash Rock is inside Mount Baker. Mount Baker is 194 kilometers south of us over the border in Washington. So the only way it got here is at some point between about 11 and 14 million years ago, there must have been such a massive eruption inside Mount Baker, about 200 kilometers south of us, that Mount Baker spat what is now Siwash Rock over what is now the US-Canadian border. Bang, landed was now Stanley Park, and then about 14 million years of rain, wind, waves, and sea erosion has exposed it. But it is 800 times stronger than the sandstone and the limestone cliffs behind it. If you're riding your bike and you're walking around Stanley Park and you think, how much further do I have to go? That's your halfway point. That is 4.4 kilometers to here, and then 3.8 kilometers to English Bay Beach, so roughly about halfway. Now, if you guys are riding a bike around Stanley Park, guys, if you'll notice, everybody else is riding one way, and that's because you are only allowed to ride from the Harbour to Granville Island, or from left to right, or anti-clockwise. You are not allowed to ride like these guys are doing in front of us. Naughty, naughty. The reason why is because it used to be very funny to watch people smash into each other around this blind corner, bang. So don't be that person. Make sure you're riding anti-clockwise, or from the Harbour around to Granville Island, or from left to right, or anti-clockwise. Don't be like that family. Right? Exactly. There's a lot of science, guys. Don't be that person. I can tell you from personal experience, it's not very fun going around those blind corners straight into someone else on their bike. So don't be like them. Be polite, be nice, go anti-clockwise. If you guys didn't bring a bike, that's okay. You can rent one from the Vancouver Convention Centre at the beginning of the seawall on the correct side next to Canada Place, where the Seaplane's flying out from. It's only $35 for an adult and like $28 for a kid for the day. Rent a bike, do the seawall. That's my #1 thing to do. Now, the third reason I think Stanley Park is so much better than Central Park in New York, it might sound very, very trivial, but it's very, very important. It is 28.75% larger than Central Park in New York City. Doesn't sound very important, but if anybody's been to New York in June, July, August, or September, and you've gone to Central Park, it's you, whoever you're with, and about 3 million other people. It's always absolutely packed. There's no room for anybody. Stanley Park is not like that. It's never overly packed. There's lots of room for everybody. You've got everything from the Vancouver Aquarium to the Stanley Park Brewery. You can get a horse-drawn carriage on your dates. You can get a steam train for the kids. There's a petting zoo. There's a museum in there. You've got the totem poles. You've got lots of things in Stanley Park. Definitely check out Stanley Park, but my number one thing is always riding a bike or walking around the seawall. It's flat, it's easy, anybody can do it. Make sure you do the seawall. We are gonna drive the opposite direction that you guys are gonna ride as we go back around under the Lionsgate Bridge and into the harbour. As we go around the bend and under the bridge, this is usually the bumpiest part of the day because all the water going into Vancouver Harbour under the Lionsgate Bridge has to come straight back out and all goes through under the Lionsgate Bridge. It's not going to be massive 6-foot waves like it was last week, but it's going to be a little bit bumpy as we go under. It always is. It might not be. I don't know. Usually it is. But as we go around the bend, guys, that's one stop down. We're going to leave the ocean, go into the harbour under the bridge. If you guys don't get an amazing video of the Lionsgate Bridge, don't be upset. We're going to go back under the bridge in an hour's time. I'll be stopping on both sides for you guys as we make our way back out of the harbour in about 60 minutes. But as we go around the corner and under the bridge, guys, that's one stop down with 7 to go. Yes, Fanny? What land? In terms of First Nations land?
Yeah, it is, but what's the name?
Yeah, so there's 3 First Nations lands that we're sitting on right now, including the waterway. There's the Musqueam, there's the Squamish, and the Swallowtooth. So Musqueam is mainly Stanley Park and back towards the airport behind me. That's usually their traditional lands. Squamish is basically West Vancouver in front of us, including Grouse Mountain, all the way up towards Whistler. And then Swallowtooth is basically Vancouver Harbour, or what's now Vancouver Harbour, along towards Deep Cove on the North Shore. But they all share the same land. It's all technically legally and recognised.
I just wanted to know the names. Thank you. I like
Musqueam, Squamish, and Swallowtooth.
Okay.
Squamish is basically everything in front of us to the left. Musqueam is everything behind us, and then Swallowtooth is everything in front of us across towards the right. But they all share it. But yeah, Musqueam, Swallowtooth, Squamish. There's a town called Squamish, which is about 2 hours north of us. There's no town called Musqueam, but there is the Musqueam Theatre, which is in downtown Vancouver, as well as the Musqueam Roadway, which is out towards the airport, and then you've got the Swallowtooth area, which is down towards Deep Cove. But yeah, good question. Musqueam, Swallowtooth, and Squamish. Really cool names. I like all of them. But as we go in the bend, guys, under the bend, under the bridge, into the harbour, I found one more pair of sunglasses. You can have those at the very, very back. Amazing, guys. One stop down, 7 to go, heading downtown. Everybody ready? Ready. Me too. Let's go downtown. as promised, a little bit bumpy as we go under the bridge. But you have to remember that all the water that goes into Vancouver Harbour has to come back out during a high and low tide. Now, it doesn't look very big in here, but under that bridge on the far left-hand side, which is called the Second Narrows, it continues on for about 60 more kilometers. So it's a lot of water traveling into Vancouver Harbour and back out. So that's about a 2 out of 50 in terms of how rough it can get under the Lionsgate Bridge. A lot of water traveling under that thing every single day during a tidal change, which yesterday was pretty bumpy and pretty rough. Last week was insanely rough, insanely dangerous, but today I'd give that a 2 out of 50. But as we cruise in towards downtown, we're sitting on the edge of an airport. I'm sure you guys all saw that seaplane that was flying in and then came into land directly in front of us. Everything between the gas station, the floating chevron, which you use to refuel your boats, all the way across to Canada Place with the white sails, all the way back to that red and white tower about 200 meters behind us on the left. Everything in this imaginary triangle on our left-hand side is Cole Harbour Airport, and it services a company called Harbour Air. Now, my #1 thing in Vancouver to do will cost you about $30. It's renting a bike and riding around the seawall. My #2 thing is going to cost you a little bit more than $30, but my #2 thing you must do at some point in British Columbia is get on a seaplane. This is your airport, guys. Company's called Harbour Air. You can fly from Vancouver to Victoria, Nanaimo to Fino, and Port Renfrew, as well as Salt Spring Island on Vancouver Island. You can fly up to the Sunshine Coast to an area called Powell River and Campbell River. You can fly all the way up to Whistler behind us and land on Green Lake, which is the glacial-fed lake on the north side of Whistler. You can fly as far inland as Kelowna and the Okanagan, about 400 kilometers inland. Now, this is Vancouver, guys. It's not going to be cheap. The cheapest thing you're going to do in Vancouver is probably going to be this tour. So expect at least a $200 bill to fly to Victoria return, about $400 to fly to Tofino return, about $500 to fly to Whistler return, and about $750 to fly to Kelowna return. I realize it's probably more than what you spent on flying from Ontario, Quebec, Alberta, Winnipeg, whatever. But guys, it's worth it. It's an absolutely amazing company. Harbour Air. Harbour like H-A-R-B-O-R, air like flying in the air. Harbour Air. The seaplane airport is Cole Harbour Airport. It's right here on the left-hand side. You can see all the seaplanes next to the Vancouver Convention Centre, the building with the grass green roof and the red umbrellas and the 2010 Winter Olympic torch. My #2 thing is getting on a seaplane, guys. It's going to cost you a lot of money, but it's worth it, especially if you're planning to fly to Victoria, because we don't have the Vancouver to Victoria ferry anymore. That's gone. There used to be a big catamaran that went from downtown Vancouver to downtown Victoria, cost like $80. It's only 45 minutes to an hour, depending on sea conditions. That's gone. Only way to get to Victoria now is getting either the Tsawwassen ferry, which is about 85 kilometers behind downtown on the US border, or to go to Horseshoe Bay, which is about 60 kilometers that way. Then you'll have to get the ferry across to Nanaimo or to Sydney, and then you'll have to get a bus from either Nanaimo or Sydney down. Depending on which way you want to go, that's either going to be 3 buses, 2 trains, a ferry, or it's going to be 2 trains, 2 buses, and a ferry. That'll take you about 4.5 to 5 hours to get to Victoria. Whoa. Don't get public transport and get ferries and buses and trains. Get a seaplane. It's going to cost you about $135, $140 to get all the public transport over there and back. So yeah, it's in like 75 bucks each way, but it's 5 hours. Spend the extra $70 and get a seaplane. It is 12 minutes flight from Vancouver to Victoria with a seaplane. The captain has no problems at all doing really wide turns, flying over islands, flying through mountains and landing in the harbour. It's an absolutely amazing experience. It's $200 give or take to Victoria return, but I guarantee you'll have a much more enjoyable 12-minute flight, 15 minutes in bad weather, than getting 5 hours of buses, trains and ferries there, 5 hours of buses and trains, ferries back. If you have a car, that's okay. Take the car to Victoria, obviously, or car to Vancouver Island. If you don't have a car, fly. It's way more enjoyable. Should only cost you about $70 more on average. Now, next to the airport is the convention center. If you guys want to rent a bike, you can do that at the convention center as well. But next to the convention center with the big white sails on the top, that is Canada Place, which has looked very lonely for the last 2 years because that used to be the world's 4th busiest cruise ship terminal. Since COVID-19, we don't have any cruise ships in Canadian waters. However, back in the 80s, when the Canada Place building was built, it was very controversial because a lot of the critics at the time had the same problem that I did when it was unveiled in 1986. And that's that it has a striking resemblance to the Sydney Opera House in Sydney, Australia. Everyone thought it was going to be a Sydney Opera House ripoff. Me personally, I can't help but agree. It looks a lot like the Sydney Opera House, but the architect who designed it and built it said or claimed that the big white sails are supposed to symbolize or represent orca or killer whale teeth. That's what the idea is. For me, I think it's always Sydney Opera House. I'll leave it to you guys. But as you guys ride, walk, drive, skateboard, rollerblade, whatever you guys want to do into Stanley Park, eventually on this side, as you enter it the correct direction, you're going to ride past this little island. You can see there's a bridge on our right hand side which takes you across the tiny little waterway. Stanley Park's on the right, the island's on the left. The island has all the blue boat sheds behind it and the mast and the building with the white windows, white roof, brick sides. That island is known as Dead Man's Island. It's a very scary name, and the reason why is because Dead Man's Island is still today considered one of the most haunted places in the world. 3 very creepy things happened on Dead Man's Island. The first one was all the way back in 1797. A British captain called George Vancouver, everything's named after him, he sailed a fleet of British explorers into what is now called Vancouver Harbour. They dropped their anchors, and this is in January. They looked at this island and they thought that island is going to make a perfect place to set up stables for their horses, pigs, cows and things like that. Because you put them on an island, they're not going to swim away, are they? So easier than putting them on an island than to set up fences and things like that. So what he got his crew to do at the end of January in 1797 was cut down all the trees and cut 1 foot of the topsoil off the top to make it a nice stable soft platform for the horses, pigs, cows and stuff like that. Unfortunately, in February and March, it snows a little bit in Vancouver, but it's mainly raining. It rained for 60 days in a row, which turned the island into a disgusting swampland. And then in April, every single year, we have what's called a lunar king tide. It's the highest tide of the year. The water comes up to about where my hand is. So the entire island almost gets entirely submerged. And because the water came up and they cut the trees down, which keeps it all together, what they had not realized, but they were very quick to realize, was that for over 1,000 years, the local Musqueam, Swallowtooth, and Squamish First Nations people had used the island as a burial ground. So when the water came up and there weren't any trees to hold it together, about 1,000 years of bones, bodies, and decomposing bits came through the loose soil and floated around in Vancouver Harbour. It would have been a very disgusting and very unwelcoming welcome for the British explorers. After that, 1835 to 1910, this building with the white window frames and the white roof is the old Vancouver Gallows. If you don't know what the gallows are, it is the execution area. So if you were sentenced to be executed, you were executed by hanging inside that building between 1835 and 1910. It was closed in 1910, but then in 1911, 1912, all the way through till 1917, that used to be the quarantine center for smallpox victims. So not only was it a disturbed native burial ground, it was also then the execution area, then it was a isolation area and quarantine center for smallpox victims. And then between 1917 to 1943, that is the old Vancouver Sanitarium for the mentally sort of crazy people. So not only was it a madhouse, it was also a cemetery, then it was a burial ground, then it was a disturbed burial ground, then it was a smallpox quarantine center. It doesn't get creepier than that. Still considered one of the most haunted places in the world, this island just off the coast of Stanley Park. Now you're not allowed to go onto Dead Man's Island, not because it's haunted, but because that building and the building behind it is now the west coast of Canada's Scientific Naval Research Centre. So if you guys join the Canadian Navy as a science officer, you're more than welcome to go aboard. Otherwise, it's a scientific research centre, but it's still considered one of the most haunted places in the world. Now before we turn around and go out towards the other side of the harbour, as I promised at the docks, guys, I'm always more than happy to take family photos or single photos. So for my lovely Winnipeggers, is that the right collective noun, Winnipeggers?
Yeah.
That's right, wow. I was gonna say Manitobans. If you guys want a family photo together, I'll get you guys to stand up and turn around if you guys like, and then I'll grab a photo of you guys all together with downtown looking beautiful in the background. Fanny, don't worry about crawling down or whatever. I can reach over you, don't worry about that. I don't know why, people always like, like, don't worry about it, I can reach over you, I'm pretty tall. Amazing. On the count of 3, that's a 1, 2, 3, beautiful. As we do turn around, guys, don't be upset. We will see downtown Vancouver 4 more times from 4 separate angles. I don't think you guys came to British Columbia to look at high-rise buildings and apartments. You can find that in any city, any province in Canada. What you can't find across Canada is mountains. Sorry?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. We don't have beaches. I think you guys forget that.
No, but I drove from Montreal to Vancouver, and I can tell you, once I left Thunder Bay, pretty flat until I got to into the Rockies. I've been driving through Saskatchewan, and it was like, wow. Like, I thought Australia was flat, my God. But as we turn around, guys, we'll go out towards North Vancouver's mountains and everything else over here. We're gonna see downtown again though, so don't be too upset. But as we turn around with the airplane flying out behind us, this one here is flying to Salt Spring Island. It's a tiny little island just off the coast of Victoria. It's only an 11.5-minute flight, but it is $200 return, so. But as we do turn around, we'll make our way out towards North Vancouver and the mountains. But as we go out of the the airport, we're not allowed to speed, so to kill the time, I don't know how many of you guys spotted it today, but on the other side of the harbour, behind that big blue boat as we came around the bend, there was a massive pile of very bright, very yellow fluorescent material.
Yeah.
Does anybody know what that is?
No?
No takers? No guesses? I'll tell you. It's sulfur. It's a sulfur refinery. If you guys don't know what sulfur smells like, I can drive really close to it on the way back. No? Sounds good. Sulfur smells like burnt hair and rotten eggs. It's one of the worst smelling things in the world. If you guys do gardening and you guys open those bags of fertilizer from Home Depot and Canadian Tire, you think, oh, that smells bad. That is sulfur and nitrate inside of your fertilizer. It absolutely stinks. It's not dangerous, but it is very, very smelly. That being said, I've asked that question pretty much every tour and every charter I'm pretty sure I've done in the last 5 years. I got the best answer I will ever get in 2018 from a guy from Texas. I said, do you guys know what that is? And then he put his hand up and I was like, yep. And he goes, is it plutonium? I was like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, nope, not plutonium. Not even remotely as dangerous or explosive, but it is very, very smelly. So we're gonna keep our distance away from it regardless. We're gonna go check out those mountains, but if you look at the harbour, you can see the water getting sucked in through the shipping channel. Directly in front of us, like 200 meters. It's sort of like wavy and a bit rough. There's over 750 million gallons of water that get sucked in and sucked out through the shipping channel. It's 100 foot deep under the little white waves in front of us, but it's less than 25 feet deep on either side of it. So it's really deep. It's like an underwater sort of current getting ripped in and ripped out. But we're gonna go around that because I don't feel like driving through it. We're gonna go out towards North Vancouver. It looks nice and calm. Let's go check out some mountains. We'll see you downtown as we turn around though. Tell you guys, it's never gonna get old as we go out towards North Vancouver past the Honest Sky from Panama. But as we went around the Honest Sky from Panama, we're now facing north into North Vancouver. Now, as you remember when we left Granville Island, this was just my opinion. You can have your own about Vancouver, but in my opinion, I think downtown is kind of meh. The best thing about living in Vancouver, visiting Vancouver, is having the ocean on one side to enjoy and the mountains on the other side to enjoy. We are one of the luckiest cities in the world to have so many wonderful things close to our city. These mountains are part of what's called the North Shore and North Vancouver. Now you can drive to any of them in maybe 1 hour on a bad day, maybe half an hour on a really good day from downtown. There are 5 of them, and each of them has something different, great, and unique to offer, whether it's the summer or the winter. The one furthest over on the very far left-hand side, that was where all the houses are on the hill when we stopped in front of Stanley Park. That's called West Vancouver, and above West Vancouver is Cypress Mountain. Now, without a doubt in my mind, Cypress Mountain is one of the best ski resort mountains in the world. I will give the actual skiing and snowboarding like a 7.5 out of 10, but the view is a 10 out of 10. How many ski resorts in the world can you ski down into a glacial fjord or the Pacific Ocean? You get those amazing views of the ocean as you get into ski runs. Not many ski resorts in the world where you can ski down to the ocean and make your way back, but you can at Cypress Mountain. Absolutely beautiful views. And if you guys remember 11 years ago in February, so 2011, 2010, Vancouver had the Winter Olympics. About 20% of the ski and snowboarding was held up at Cypress Mountain. We won a whole bunch of gold medals in the bugles, and that's what it's called when you go down the bumps, bugles, buggles, one of the two. As well as the half pipe challenge for the men and the downhill skiing for the females, as well as the high jump on the skis we go over the massive ramp. That was all won by Canada, gold medals at the top of Cypress Mountain. Now in the summertime, there's never really a lot of things on Cypress Mountain to do until Canada Day this year. They opened what is now called the Cypress Mountain roller coaster. It's at the top of Cypress Mountain. They've done a very bad advertising it, but it's not a roller coaster like what you'd find at Disneyland or at Six Flags. It's one of those German Swiss style ones where you're sitting in like a little toboggan thing with the accelerator and the brake on a single track. You go winding down through the trees on your own little sort of streetcar. It's a really fun time. If you guys want to do it, it's called the Cypress Mountain roller coaster. It's at the top of Cypress Mountain. Have to book it in advance online.
Is it closed? Because I googled it. It says it was closed.
Could have been closed because of bad weather, maybe. High winds, they shut it down. Rain, shut it down.
Okay.
But should be still open, guys. Yeah, it says open until October 1st. So maybe they're closed early. Who knows? They've done a really bad job advertising it. So
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I think you just gotta show up.
Yeah, pretty much. It says book it online, but when I turned up, I just turned up, so whatever.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
it
guys.
said on Google temporary closed.
Ah,
So
I don't know. Maybe give them a call before you drive all the way up there. I did it a couple weeks ago. It's a really fun time. But the second mountain is the only mountain you can't drive to the top of. Behind where the sea bus is going past, the big blue doors, behind the blue doors is those two little ears poking up. That is known as the Lions. That's why the Lionsgate Bridge is called the Lionsgate Bridge. You can't drive to the Lions, but you can hike to the Lions along what is called the Howl Sound Crest Trail. It's one of the most grueling, brutal hikes of your life, but it's called the Howl Sound Crest Trail. It begins at the stop, at the very, very top of Cypress Mountain, and you go all the way along the coastline, all the way along the Lions. Yeah, well spotted, a little seal in front of us. See him? Yeah. 50 feet. The seals, guys. We'll see a lot of seals today. I don't point them out because it's always Murphy's Law, because every time I'm like, look, a seal, it goes, whoop, and it goes away. So if you see seals, guys, feel free to point them out, but we'll see lots of seals today. But yeah, guys, the Lions. I did the hike last year in September. It was one of the most grueling 6 hours of my life, from the top of Cypress Mountain to the top of that peak on the left-hand side. But once I did get to the top, you have a 360-degree uninterrupted view. Pretty spectacular. You got oceans, the glacial fjord, glaciers, Vancouver, unbeatable. Now the third mountain is the one that I would guess about 90% of you will go to at some point whilst you're in Vancouver. The one directly in front of us at the top, there's a big observation deck wind turbine at its peak, and two big pieces of it have been cut away at the top. That's called Grouse Mountain. Now you've got two choices to go to the top of Grouse Mountain in summer. You can get the gondola, it's $40 for an adult, $27 for a kid. Otherwise, if you want to save money, you can always try and do what's called the Grouse Grind. I did it last Wednesday for the very first time. It was the most unenjoyable hour and 29 minutes of my life. For anybody that does not know what it is, there's a staircase from the bottom of Grouse Mountain on the left-hand side, which goes right to the peak. It's about this steep the entire way. Hour and 29 minutes. I was absolutely exhausted when I got to the top. I've never been as unhappy and as angry as when I did the Grouse Grind. It is absolutely soul-destroying. Really want to give it a go. Time to beat an hour and 29 for myself. Otherwise, the world record is 24 minutes and 7 seconds. So I still have a lot of work to do, but otherwise get the gondola. It's 10 minutes, it's great, only $40 for an adult basically. At the top of Grouse Mountain, there's a bar, there's a cafe, there's a restaurant, people go paragliding, you can go rock climbing, there's zip lines, there's a lot of things up at Grouse Mountain. There's just great views as well. You can get the chairlift, lots of things for the kids. Go to Grouse Mountain. Now in the winter time, I'm not a big fan of Grouse Mountain in terms of skiing and snowboarding. I don't think it's very good. But I am a big fan of its opening hours because it is open until midnight on Fridays and Saturdays, which means after a sad, wet, depressing Vancouver winter day, you go to Grouse Mountain. You have skiing and snowboarding until midnight. You have a few drinks with you, of course, and most importantly, on the very lucky chance that it's a nice clear night, as you get in the ski runs at nighttime, you have the entire city of Vancouver lit up as your view. That's an unbeatable Friday and Saturday night out. Don't get depressed and sit in a bar with it raining outside in Vancouver in winter. We've got mountains right there. Go to the mountains, have a Mickey in your back pocket and go skiing down at nighttime. That's what Grouse Mountain's for in the wintertime. Now the fourth mountain is the one that everybody forgets even exists. If you're looking at Grouse Mountain, it comes down into a valley and then it comes back up on its right-hand side directly in front of us. The mountain on the right side of Grouse Mountain is not Grouse Mountain. It's called Mount Frome. There's nothing on Mount Frome, but in between Grouse Mountain and Mount Frome, behind where this boat is driving past, is the Capilano River. Going over the Capilano River is the Capilano Suspension Bridge Park. My number 3 thing you must do in Vancouver is go to the Capilano Bridge. Before anybody says it, I don't care if you think it's touristy. The only reason why I think you should go to the Capilano Bridge is because it is never, ever, ever going to be this quiet at the Capilano Bridge in the summertime ever again. One of the only good things about COVID is how quiet things that are usually insanely busy are. I went to the Capilano Bridge for my 27th birthday, July 11th, 2018. Spent my 28th birthday with me, my mum, and my dad, and probably about 40,000 people at the Capilano Bridge. It's the most unenjoyable things I've ever done. I went there last Wednesday before I did the Grouse Grind. Me, my fiance, and like 500 people, maybe? Go to the Capilano Bridge, guys. It's iconic, and also, if it's raining, the Capilano Bridge is one of the only good things to do in Vancouver when it's raining. Stanley Park, I think is great, but otherwise, Capilano River. I don't care if it's raining, go to the Capilano Bridge. It's beautiful in there. Suspension bridges, canyons, treetop walks, always a good time, no matter what the weather is. However, the very final mountain is the one behind all these apartments on the northeast corner of Vancouver. That is called Mount Seymour. Now with Mount Seymour, I would give the actual skiing and snowboarding in the winter a 1 out of 10, but that's not the point. If you're trying to learn how to ski and snowboard, Mount Seymour is probably the best mountain to learn. It's flat, it's easy, it's big and open. I find it really boring, but if you guys are trying to learn how to ski and snowboard, I would strongly discourage you guys from going to Whistler. That is going to be a first-class ticket to breaking your neck or breaking your arms. Go to Mount Seymour if you want to learn how to ski and snowboard. It's flat, easy, no trees, no cliffs, no rocks. It's nice and safe for the kids. Really fun time in the winter for kids. In the summertime, if you don't feel like driving all the way to Whistler, you can go downhill mountain biking at Mount Seymour. There's a chairlift which takes you back to the top. There's about 100 trails which go through the trees. I would strongly encourage you bringing bear spray though, because there are a lot of black bears on Mount Seymour. So definitely don't come unprepared. I've literally ridden my bike around a blind corner straight into the back of one before. So make sure you come prepared. It's very, very scary coming face to face with a black bear as you come around the trails, because there's barely any sun reception on the far side as well. Come prepared, guys. Otherwise, we're so lucky in Vancouver. We have 5 mountains. We've got 3 ski resorts. One good for the kids, one's good for drinking at nighttime, one's good anytime. Then you got a roller coaster, some of the best hiking in the world. You got everything on Grouse Mountain, the Capilano Bridge, everything in the summertime in Mount Seymour. Always a fun time. We are so insanely lucky in Vancouver to have all this close by. And here's my only piece of advice. If you're planning to go to North Vancouver and you didn't bring a car, don't get a cab. You're going to have a very expensive cab ride from downtown Vancouver to the North Shore if you get stuck on the Lionsgate Bridge. Get the Sea Bus. This blue thing in front of us is $3.25. Lonsdale Quay, waterfront station behind Canada Place. It takes 5 minutes. I absolutely guarantee you'll have a much more enjoyable trip across and then like a $15 to $25 cab ride on this side than being stupid like I was when I went to Grouse Mountain for a wedding in July. My cab ride was $147 from downtown Vancouver to Grouse Mountain. The reason why? There was an accident on the Lionsgate Bridge. If you get stuck on that bridge, there's nowhere to turn around. It's only one lane, right? So don't be stupid like me. Get the Sea Bus across. It's $3.50. Go across. Jump in an Uber on this side. Otherwise, you get stuck in that bridge. Oof, it's gonna be an expensive cab ride. We're gonna go back towards downtown, guys. We're gonna go back past this amazing research vessel. This was built by Seaplane, the company behind us. It's owned by the Canadian government. It's one of the ones we send up into the Arctic to do our research in the Arctic. We're gonna drive around the back of it and then back around the Honor Sky and back towards downtown. Hold on to your hats, heading back towards downtown. around the boats and out towards the other side of the airport. Now with Vancouver as a city, before Vancouver existed, there was two cities in Vancouver. One was called Gastown, one was called Granville. Vancouver wasn't even called Vancouver until January 1st, so New Year's Day of 1886. Before that, there was two cities. One was called Gastown, one was called Granville. They're still here today, you can still see them. Gastown is the Gastown area along the waterfront behind Canada Place. Granville became Granville Street, the Granville Street Bridge, Granville Island, where I met you guys, and the downtown area on the right side of Canada Place. Now they decided to form one big city in 1886 because it was getting too difficult to work out where did their city limits begin and where did the other city limits start, because the population was exploding. And if you've walked through Gastown and you've walked along Granville Street, you may have noticed they are very different looking feeling areas. That's because Gastown on the left side of Canada Place was where a large amount of the Irish migrants which came across to Vancouver settled, whereas a lot of the original British Empire area is along Granville Street. That's why Granville Street has the big old Victorian era British buildings like the Marine Building, Hudson Bay Company Building, Sinclair Centre, Post Office, Central Bank, whereas Gastown has much more of a Irish feel. 5-story buildings, Dublin-style brick buildings, cobblestone streets, gas lanterns, like 40 Irish pubs. They formed one big city because Vancouver, which changed our name to, its population was exploding. And the reason why it was exploding was A, gold was discovered here on the west coast in British Columbia, Alberta, Washington, and the Yukon, which brought a lot of people over during the gold rush. Same thing as California in the 1840s, Australia in the 1860s. And then the second reason was because in August of 1875, Canada completed two pieces of engineering marvel. One's called the Canada Pacific Railway, one's called the Canada National Railway. I'm sure you have all seen those big red trains which travel across Canada. They either say CN or they say CPR or Canada Pacific Railway on the side. The Canada National Railway, which is CN, goes from Ottawa to Vancouver along the border. And then the Canada Pacific Railway goes from Quebec City up north to Thunder Bay across to the sort of Churchill area back down to Winnipeg, Winnipeg to Calgary, Calgary up to Edmonton, Edmonton to Fort Mac all the way through the Rockies down towards basically Banff, and then makes a far right-hand turn and finishes up here in Vancouver, connecting Atlantic Canada and Pacific Canada, or East and West Coast. A lot of people came across to Vancouver because we were the end of the train line. CPR finishes off here in North Van, CN finishes off over here in West Van. So this is basically the end of the train line. Now for 100th birthday, Vancouver hosted the 1986 World Expo. For anybody that remembers the Expo 35 years ago, it was a massive deal for Vancouver. At the time, Pierre Trudeau, who was Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau's dad, he said if 100,000 people turn up, that's a success. By the time that Princess Diana and Prince Charles cut the ribbon at the closing ceremony at the end of Canada Place on October 15th, 27 million people had visited Vancouver in less than 4 months. It was an absolute banana success. But a lot of that success was overshadowed by the budget. Now, at the time, the budget was 100 million. By the time it finished, it was closer to somewhere between 1.7 and 1.8 billion. So it went slightly over budget, as most things in Vancouver tend to do. But it's a good thing it did, because a lot of the things that now make Vancouver, Vancouver was because of the Expo. If you guys get the SkyTrain, more than half of the SkyTrain system was built for the Expo. If you guys go to Canada Place to get a cruise ship or a vaccine, that was built for the Expo. Convention Center, Expo. Seaplanes, Expo. Vancouver Aquarium, rebuilt for the Expo. Vancouver Lookout, the circular building above Canada Place, that was built for the Expo. The big stadium behind Canada Place, right behind Gastown over there, called BC Place, that was built for the Expo. Science World, Expo. Granville Island Market, Expo. It was a massive deal. It worked. A lot of Vancouver became very famous because of the Expo, and luckily we got a second chance to show off to the world in 2010 when we had the Winter Olympics. Now, the Winter Olympics is still today in Vancouver considered the most successfully run Olympics in history. Not because of the gold, silver, and bronze medals that Canada won, but because we didn't waste any money. We still use everything we built for the Olympics. Cities like Rio de Janeiro, Athens, Sydney wasted billions of dollars building stuff and never used it again. We still use everything we built for the Olympics. Olympic Village, which is behind the BC Place Stadium, that's still one of the best neighborhoods in Vancouver to live in. If you guys go to Rogers Arena to watch the Canucks lose, that was built for the Olympics. If you guys drive to Whistler along the Cedar Sky Highway, that was rebuilt for the Olympics. If you guys go to Cypress Mountain, that was built for the Olympics. If you guys go to Whistler, there are two mountains. One's called Whistler, one's called Blackcomb, and there's a big gondola in between. The peak-to-peak gondola Blackcomb, the village, the Sea to Sky gondola, and the highway to get up there, all built for the Olympics. We were riding high because not only was the Winter Olympics the most successful ever run, but if you guys really remember 11 years ago in February, in Vancouver, in the middle of winter in February, during the Winter Olympics, Vancouver had 0 centimeters of snow. We were the envy of every Canadian. Who doesn't want to have no snow and 11 degrees like it was the day that we won the gold medal game? This is Vancouver. Now, the reason why Vancouver is considered one of the most expensive cities in the world is because basically, guys, as I keep saying, we got mountains, the ocean, Stanley Park, things to do, great public transport, blah, 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 blah. But more importantly, it's worth spending those extra dollars to live in Vancouver, because in winter, the coldest recorded day in downtown Vancouver was February 23rd, 1963. JFK was president. It was minus 21 degrees. That is the coldest day that Vancouver has ever had in downtown. In terms of heat, we had a heat wave we had this year that smashed the records. Before the heat wave, hottest day was 36.7. More importantly than that, for everyone from Ontario and Quebec on board, nothing worse than a hot, humid, wet day. I was in Montreal a few weeks ago for my birthday. Whoa, it was like being in Bangkok. I was like, oh my goodness. We don't get those humid days here in Vancouver. It's always nice and warm and dry, and more importantly, minus our heat wave, we never get above 40 with the Winnipeggers on board. Nothing worse than plus 40-degree weather. Nothing worse than really hot, humid days. We don't get those blistering hot 40-degree days. We don't get those really hot, humid, wet days like the East Coast. It's warm and dry in the summertime. Cold, wet, and windy sometimes in the wintertime. Now, as much as we absolutely love in Vancouver to complain about the rain, I will happily take a wet, rainy, 11-degree January day over minus 30, minus 40. Happily, guys. We get snow, guys, but not very much. Last winter, 11 days of snow in downtown. That was it. The entire winter snowfall was 9.5 inches. So if you guys buy a Subway sandwich and you have 60% of it, that's how much snow we had in the entire of downtown in winter last year. We get snow, but not much. You can drive for snow if you need to. But as we get back towards the Lionsgate Bridge, guys, we're 2/3 of the way through. It should be very, very close to 2 o'clock. It's 2:07, which means we are just over 2/3 of the way through. We're gonna say goodbye to downtown on this side. We'll say hello to it one more time on the other side as we go back around Stanley Park. But heading back towards the bridge, we'll stop on this side of the bridge and the other side of the bridge, then one more time, and then we're home. Almost home, guys. back under the Lionsgate Bridge. It opened in October of 1938. But before the bridge existed, if you lived in West Vancouver in front of us or North Vancouver on the right of us, and you want to go downtown and bring your car with you, the only way to get back and forth was on your own private barge. And obviously this was very, very dangerous and also very expensive, because today, once again, this is a 2 out of 50. This is about as calm as it ever gets. Before this, there can be very, very big waves, really rough seas, really strong tides. So a lot of people are losing their lives, cars, and belongings. I'll get everyone to sit down for 1 second while I jump over this guy's wake. I didn't realize how big it was going to be. About 10 seconds. Cars and belongings to rough seas, strong conditions, bad waves, things like that. Unfortunately, of course, a lot of people are getting very upset about this. So constantly West Vancouver and North Vancouver asked Vancouver to build a bridge. But Vancouver didn't have any money. We were broke in the 1930s thanks to the Great Depression. But luckily, Canada had a secret weapon called alcohol, because alcohol was legal in Canada, but it wasn't legal in the US. So the way that Canada got around paying for the bridge was, at the time, there was a very famous American family that was getting in a lot of trouble in Chicago called the Guinness family for sending alcohol from Canada to the US during the Prohibition era. These guys made an absolute fortune by sending alcohol from Vancouver to Chicago, but unfortunately in 1931, the Guinness family gets caught. They're given a very simple choice by the American government of either spending the rest of their life in Alcatraz prison with Al Capone, otherwise they have to spend $145 million US in back taxes, fines, and legal fees. So being American, being a massive tax bill, and being in trouble with a life prison, only sensible thing to do, come north, become a Canadian, jump the border and came to Canada. They were met by the Canadian government in Buffalo as well as the Ontario-Buffalo border, and they were given a very simple choice. They'd made a deal with the very famous family from Chicago, and that's because at the time, they're one of the wealthiest families in America. Very, very conveniently, the Prime Minister of Canada at the time was also Irish, just like the Guinness family, and someone very, very nicely and very conveniently donated $40 million to the Canadian government to help pay for building a bridge. This bridge. Who paid for it? The Guinness family. It's called a bribe. Guinness family gave the Canadian government $40 million to become Canadians and escape justice in the US. This is the bridge that they paid for. $40 million of the US Guinness family's money went to building the Lionsgate Bridge. Everybody was happy, except of course for the American government and the trees in Stanley Park that had to be bulldozed to build it. But we got a free bridge out of it, which is kind of nice. But this is my number 4 thing in Vancouver to do, guys. Number 4, go to Whistler. It's gonna be the worst part of your day. Driving over the Lionsgate Bridge is always a headache, but once you get over the bridge, it's a 2-hour drive from the bridge to Whistler, 2 hours to get back without any accidents. I don't care if you hate Australians or if you hate downhill mountain biking, the drive between Vancouver and Whistler is always going to be one of the highlights of your trip. It's 2 hours there, 2 hours back. This is going to be the worst part of your day. But as we go back onto the bridge, guys, we've only got 1 stop left. Looks a little bit choppy and very sort of murky in the middle, so we're not going to stop on the other side, sadly, but we are going to go under the bridge and around the corner back towards Granville Island. Only 1 stop left, guys. Almost home. Let's go. last stop. And as we go back around Stanley Park, we did a giant loop, if you guys didn't realize. We started off in Falls Creek under the Burrard Street Bridge in front of us at 1-5, and then we came all the way around behind us, around Stanley Park, back around the harbour and back around. As we get back into the slow zone, guys, Vancouver is famous for a lot of things, but we have become very famous in the last 20 or so years as being referred to as the Hollywood in the North. And that's because Vancouver is the third biggest film and TV production city outside of Los Angeles and New York. Everything from the X-Files to Supernatural to Riverdale to Tron to The Never-Ending Story to Deadpool to Supernatural, everything's made in Vancouver, guys. Ryan Reynolds is a Vancouverite, so is Michael J. Fox, so is Seth Rogen, so is Kobe Smulders, so is Hayden Christensen. But more importantly, guys, for the ladies on board, if you guys enjoy watching the Hallmark movie channel as much as my mum does, about 90% of the Hallmark movies are made in and around Vancouver. And for any of the guys on board that enjoy watching things like Friday the 13th, Halloween, Final Destination, or any of those really terrible horror films and slasher films, most of them are made by a company called Lionsgate Studios. Lionsgate Studios is on the other side of the Lionsgate Bridge in North Vancouver. It's the 5th biggest film studio in North America. The reason why Vancouver is so commonly used as a film set is A, Canada, the dollar's what, 80 cents to the US dollar? So for a big film studio, bring your money to Canada, 20% off. 2, the Canadian government makes it very easy to write things off as tax deductible. And 3, Vancouver and the architecture and the buildings, its parks, its surrounding areas can basically be made to look like any city, any area of the US very, very easily. All you have to do is put American flags in the background and you can very easily hide Vancouver and disguise it as any city in America unless it's in Arizona or Texas, basically. Because of that, a lot of films and TV shows use Vancouver as a step-in. If you guys have watched 50 Shades of Grey, it's filmed in Seattle. No, it's not. It's filmed in Vancouver. Watch The Never-Ending Story, supposed to be in New Jersey. It's Vancouver. If you guys watch House, that's filmed in Vancouver as well, at VGH Hospital. If you guys watch The Good Doctor, it's not New York City, it's Vancouver. If you guys watch Deadpool, it's not Los Angeles, that's Vancouver. If you watch Happy Gilmore, that's not Connecticut, that's Vancouver. Everything is filmed in Vancouver. It's very easy to make Vancouver like any city in the US. American flags, American taxis, whatever you need to do. Very easy to make Vancouver look like other cities. Some films do really good jobs of this, some films don't do good jobs of this. If you guys have seen Rumble in the Bronx with Jackie Chan like 25 years ago, it looks absolutely nothing like New York City. Yeah, some of the giveaways, obviously Capilano Beach, there are no white sand beaches in the Bronx. Number 2, when he jumps from the parking lot to the other parking lot, probably the most famous stunt in film history with Jackie Chan. He's jumping across West Hastings Street in Vancouver and the camera's facing north, and you can very clearly see all the mountains in North Vancouver. If you've ever been to New York City, there are no 4,000-foot mountains overlooking the city of New York. Same thing with all of the Hallmark movies. There's a movie that came out a couple of years ago called Love on the Slopes. It's about a journalist from Seattle who falls in love with a snowboarding guy from Chicago, and they go to Aspen, Colorado. When they're in Seattle, it's just Gastown with American flags. When they're in Chicago, it's just Broad Street with American flags. When they're in Aspen, it's just Grouse Mountain, but it's very obviously not Seattle or Chicago or Aspen. But lots of films do really good jobs of this, guys. I, Robot with Will Smith, set in future Chicago, that's Vancouver. RoboCop is supposed to be Detroit, that's the west side, the downtown east side, on the other side of downtown. Some films do good jobs of it, some films don't do good jobs of it, but if you live in Vancouver, I cannot even explain how many times, like I do, that you're gonna be watching movies and TV shows, and all you're thinking is, that's not Seattle, or that's not Chicago, or that's not New York, or that's not San Francisco. If you guys watch Rise of Planet of the Apes, it's supposed to be San Francisco. It's not San Francisco. It's Mount Pleasant over here on the right-hand side. Everything is using Vancouver as a giant film set. There's always American flags or taxis with the name of a city or like a police department or something like that. USA Today newsstands. It's very easy to make Vancouver look like any city in the US, except for maybe Arizona and southern Utah. But as we go back in, guys, always things filming in Vancouver. Very last drive of the day. Let's make it a good one.
pedal boats.
Amazing, and we are back in the slow zone. Did you guys have fun today?
Yes.
Yeah, me too, guys. I had a great time. Perfectly on cue. My number 5, 5th thing to do in Vancouver, guys. Number 5 out of my top 5 is go whale watching. I don't care if you don't like whales. I don't care if you don't want to go out whale watching. Go whale watching, guys. It's my number 5 thing to do in Vancouver. This our boat on the left-hand side is ours. I honestly don't care if you go with Prince of Wales or not, but if you guys get a chance, I would strongly encourage you guys to go whale watching. Now here is my one piece of advice. If you're planning to go to Vancouver Island, go whale watching from Vancouver Island instead.
Yes.
Don't do it from Vancouver. The only reason why is that we have to travel from Vancouver to Vancouver Island at this time of year to find whales. It's a 5-hour trip. If you guys want to save a lot of time or spend more time with the whales, go from Vancouver Island. It's easier to find them and much closer to find them over there. In July, August, September, October, most of the salmon which come out of the rivers here, they've already traveled out of Vancouver, and with the salmon go the seals. Seals is what the resident orcas eat, salmon's what the transit ones eat. Most of them are on that side of Strait of Georgia right now. With the food comes the whales. If you guys want to find orcas, killer whales, minke whales, grey whales, about 80% of them at this time of year are on that side of the strait. If you're going to Vancouver Island, we'll still find them. Just going to travel over there to get to them. If you're going to Vancouver Island, you can literally get on the boat and be there in like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Save yourself some time and usually some money as well. If you're not going, whatever, just travel across on the boat to find them. But that's my top 5. Whale watching, driving to Whistler, going to the Capilano Bridge. Most importantly, guys, getting a seaplane across to go to the whale watching if you want to do 2 out of 3, 2 out of 5, and then number 1 is the seawall. And as we get back in, guys, everyone on board, welcome to Vancouver. Have a wonderful time in British Columbia and safe travels back home. Now with your life jackets, I'm going to grab all 10 of your life jackets at the top of the ramp. I'm going to grab them from you at the top of the ramp so I can put them in the office to be cleaned overnight. Don't put them back in the cupboard. I cleaned and Lysoled the ones in the cupboard this morning. So with COVID-19 in mind, everybody gets their own life jackets, so don't put it back in that cupboard. I'll grab them from you at the top of the ramp. Same thing with the locker, guys. Make sure you guys grab your things out of the locker, and same thing with the boat. Make sure you bring all your belongings home with you guys. And more importantly, guys, I'll send each and every one of the adults on board an email later on. In that email is going to be a series of photos I've been taking of you guys from the back of the boat as we cruised around Vancouver. But more importantly than the photos, guys, is in the email there'll be a link to our TripAdvisor page. I really, truly do mean that it means a lot to me if you guys all write a 5-star review with my name in it.
Yes.
Tourism can always do with the extra help, guys, so re-encourage your fellow Canadians to get out by writing a 5-star review. We realize how many choices of things you have to do today, guys, so help me keep See Vancouver as the #1 thing on TripAdvisor to do. And third and finally, we have a competition every single year. I've got a commanding lead. I plan to keep it that way. Make sure you write more 5-star reviews with my name in it. If you guys forget my name later, that's okay. You can always copy and paste it from the email. Exactly, it's Raphael, R-A-P-H-A-E-L. If you guys didn't have a 5-star time, that's also totally okay, guys. I would encourage you guys either not to write a 1-star review, but if you are going to write a 1-star review, either put Sylvie, Anthony, Jasper, or Jeremy's name in it, which is the other boat captains in the company. And if you guys did have a 5-star time, make sure Raphael's in there. Otherwise, I will grab all your life jackets and any sunglasses I passed out at the top of the ramp. Make sure you bring everything out of the boat and the locker. You guys have a wonderful weekend in Vancouver and safe travels back home, guys. It's been such a pleasure. So if you guys liked your ride, don't forget to tip your guide. But if you have a good time, make sure you jump online and tell the world about it and run those 5-star reviews. Thank you guys so much. Safe travels home. Have a great time in BC and give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Should have done this first.
I know, eh? Well, we've done Whistler, we've done the suspension bridge, Stanley Park. Well, we've done 3 and we are watching. Gonna be, and this. We've done pretty good, no? That's good. Good tour, no? See? All right. Well, we're done for the tour. Back to Granville Island.
Or there's another one.
Granville.
I'll point it out because I don't think it's going anywhere. There's a seal over there.
Oh,
see?
yeah, I see you said it,
Always
eh?
the case. I never point out seals, always disappear as soon as you do.
$20 maybe. Yep.
Yeah, big Saba, I think 5.
Huh?
You're renting the boat.
Sailboat. Bridges. That's a restaurant.
Yeah.
Wow, Wales, Vancouver. There's another whale watching tour.